Now, if you're watching this in the Northern Hemisphere when this video is released on YouTube, it's going to be October, it's starting to get chilly, maybe colds and flus are starting to become a thing, or maybe they haven't become a thing yet, but you're thinking about it. And one thing a lot of people do is they maybe make warm ginger drinks, for example, to fight off some of these. Now, in Indonesia, that's very similar. In fact, Indonesia has a whole set of what you'd better call tonics that come out of ginger, turmeric, and similar. We call these Jamu. So we're going to make a very simple Jamu this week. I hope you enjoy this video. It'll be relatively short. But I think this is probably something that the folks will find interesting. Now, in Indonesia, if you're making this from scratch, you always use fresh ingredients. So fresh turmeric, fresh ginger. But in certain environments, people, in fact, here in Indonesia will get instant versions, and these will use dried ginger and dried turmeric. So if you can't get fresh turmeric or dried or fresh ginger at the time, you can do something similar with dried versions. So allow that inspiration to take hold. So the ingredients I'm going to use here are for 2 liters of water. And I think this is a really good tonic. It is 200 grams of fresh turmeric. Okay, 75 grams of fresh ginger. And we will use 60 grams of fresh tamarind. Tamarind is almost always used in these in Indonesia. And you could use tamarind paste if you don't have the fresh tamarind. Additionally, at the end, we will add juice of half of a lemon. And we will add some sugar as well, both coconut sugar and straight sugar. If you don't have coconut sugar, you could add a little bit of molasses. But coconut sugar will taste better. So, basically what we're going to do is we're going to peel these, we'll put them in a food processor, and we'll make a kind of a rough puree out of these. You could also do it on an ulek-ulek, but since I'm fairly sure more people who watch have food processors, and those who have ulek-uleks probably know how to use them, we'll do ours in a food processor today. Now, you probably don't actually have to peel these, but it will come out a little more bitter if you don't. To have a nicer flavor, it's better to peel it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And so this is our puree when we're done. Of course, sometimes we'll have to add water as we do it, as I did here. Now I'm going to add the rest of the first liter, and then I will add the second liter in a moment. But in the meantime, I'm also going to add a few other things. So we're going to start with about 150 grams of brown sugar or coconut sugar. Of course, I'm using coconut sugar. About 50 grams of white sugar. And then about 60 grams or so of tamarind, but it could be more. Now, tamarind pods look like this. We don't want the hard outer shell, so at least take that off. You can put the rest of it in, though, something like this. So I'm going to add all of that. I'm going to turn this on to boil. And we're going to boil it until the water starts to... actually, I still need to add my other liter of water. But then we're going to boil this until it starts to reduce a bit. So here we have this with everything in it. We're now just going to boil it until it reduces a bit. And then we'll take it off the heat and strain it. So once we can see that the level is going down just a little bit, then we'll take this off the heat. We're going to let it cool a bit, and maybe in an hour or so, I'll strain it into another container and we'll add the lemon juice. The next step is we're just going to pour this through a strainer, and then we'll discard the dregs. Now traditionally they'll press this in cloth, but we don't need to do that today. You can see the tamarind is still more largely in shape, and I used 5 large pieces of tamarind. I'm going to let this drain for a little bit, and then I'm going to add the lemon juice, and we can try it with the taste test. Now, I'm going to add a juice of half a lemon. Now, normally this should be brighter orange color, but I think because I cooked it in a carbon steel pot, it darkened a bit due to the iron content. So, I guess there's a little more iron in it. That's fine. Next, I'll stir this up, serve up some, and we'll taste it. So, here we go. Well, right away I can tell why it's darker than I expected. Main issue is I did add more more tamarind than I expected, and that seems to have darkened it a little bit, which is fine. Tastes nice. It's a little bit sweet, a little bit sour. Has plenty of ginger flavor and lots of turmeric flavor. Now, this isn't the thing people drink because it tastes good, but I actually think it tastes relatively pleasant. It's very aromatic. The flavor is relatively complex, and I think it tastes good. So, cheers to good health. If you find this content interesting, I hope I've earned a like and a subscription from you. Please also check out below where you can find and follow my work in other ways. If you'd like to support the work I do, please check out my Patreon page. Additionally, if you make jamu, I'd love to hear differences and see, what we can learn from each other. So please comment below in terms of what you do and how you do differently. At any rate, bon appetit and see you next week.